The Lighthouse of Stalingrad is a history of the Battle of Stalingrad in World War II, and it's a good one. The Battle of Stalingrad was certainly the deadliest battle to take place during the Second World War. In fact, it's probably, surely, one of the bloodiest battles in the history of warfare, with an estimated 2 million total casualties. You figure that's double the body count at Verdun. And even for the Eastern Front in World War II, this thing was incredibly bloody. I think if any battle can be described as decisive, Stalingrad would, I think, fit that bill. Now, by decisive, I mean that what it decided was that Germany and its allies were absolutely on the road to destruction. When the invasion of Russia began, Germany had, without a doubt, the finest army in the world. When this battle ended, the German army was ruined. It was on the run and was on the road to destruction, even though that final collapse was more than 2 years off. I've read several accounts of this battle. What makes this one, the Lighthouse of Stalingrad, different is that it pays considerably more attention to the details of the battle within the city itself than some other histories have. Now, to be sure, you get plenty of information about decision-making at the top levels on both sides, but the narrative goes down to company, platoon, and even squad levels. It pays equal attention to the command decisions made at those levels on both the Russian and the German sides. One very interesting aspect of the book is that it gets into the diaries, journals, and letters written by individual soldiers. Apart from describing the battle in great detail, the book describes the major propaganda campaign that the Russians conducted using this battle as its centerpiece. And that's where the lighthouse in the title comes in. It refers to a building more or less in the center of the city that the Russians occupied very, very early in the battle. It was actually known to the Russians fighting in the city as Pavlov's house. The Russians held it to the very end of the battle, and it became a symbol of Russian courage and persistence. Now, I suppose Pavlov's house wasn't sexy enough, so Russian propagandists called it the Lighthouse. They highlighted this thing throughout all their wartime propaganda, and also long after the war. There were a number of things I took away from this book. They included the description of the actual nature of the room-by-room fighting, the way both sides evolved their tactics for this during the battle. Now, I'll tell you, the amount of suffering soldiers on both sides took both inside and outside the city is, quite frankly, beyond belief. What's absolutely astounding is the number of their own soldiers that they shot, and not as a result of friendly fire. For example, the Russians alone executed more than 13,000 of their own men. Think about that, 13,000 of your own guys. I don't know the German number, but I expect it was pretty large. Now, I think if you want a bird's eye view of the battle, you want to read Anthony Beevor's book. It's excellent. But if you want to go deeper into the battle, this book, The Lighthouse of Stalingrad, is the ticket. If you're a military history buff, you really want to read The Lighthouse of Stalingrad. Now, you've got me, whether you can tell anything about the war in the Ukraine that's going on from this book, but it will certainly get you thinking. There's this week's recommendation.